how did you navigate on the trail? And so I'm going to cover that in this video. Okay, so a couple of things I used on the Pacific Crest Trail. Predominantly I use my iPhone. This is an iPad, of course, but I use the iPad for this video because it's a bigger screen. But an electronic device, cellular. And I also carried my watch. It's a Tactix Delta Solar. I talked about it in my gear video, and it's a great watch, and it has a lot of features. Right now it's enabled to digital compass. Over here's my Garmin InReach. I use that. That's also a backup compass, so I had two different independent sources, and I chose not to bring a manual compass. This has long battery life. This has the second longest battery life. I brought two 10,000 milliamp hour battery packs, and I also had my phone, which was on airplane mode all the time, and so I really didn't have to recharge it that often. Additionally, through the High Sierra and also Northern Washington, I also carried paper trail maps. So in this case, National Geographic PCT trail map. One other app that I do have that I did use in the North Cascades was Gaia GPS, which I will talk about separately also. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to talk about is we're going to go into the Far Out app. So this is Far Out. For most of you, you know what that is. I'm going to go to PCT, and I'm going to view the bundle, and I'm going to go to the Sierra. And for illustrative purposes, so I've already got it called up, and right here is Glen Pass. And let's see what I got up here. So up here on the paper chart, I also have Glen Pass. So I hiked through the High Sierra in May when it was snowy. So this trail that you see on the red line was usually not hikeable because we didn't see it. It was buried under feet of snow. What we would do is we would figure out compass headings down directions, and also looking at the topographic. Importantly, I studied the map, and I could tell the contours, different elevations and points along the way. So I knew, like right there, 11,780, and looking at the contours, we could evaluate, that's 12,000 feet heading down. We could use basically an altimeter to figure out where we were. The other thing too was it was sunny on most days, so we could see where we were. So in this case, Glen Pass, when we were at the summit of Glen Pass, we saw the bowl right here, foot tracks of some folks that went before us. We knew it dropped down pretty steep after studying the map, and we knew we were heading towards the Ray Lakes. We also knew we were going to have to do some crossings. So since there was no trail, yes, we followed the foot tracks, but we deviated from a little bit. You can see it follows this spine, and we basically followed the spine and then just worked our way down. And again, we saw no trail, but we knew there was two lakes here. They're frozen. We split the difference and went. So usually you had geographic landmarks that you go. Other times we would just pick a compass heading. So from here to here, for example, we didn't know the trail. We actually went more like this and then cut across because we wanted to be in a little flatter area before coming up over there. So we basically picked a compass heading using our compass, and whoever's in the lead was in charge of following that compass bearing. And then sometimes we check on the contours. And one other rule when you're doing backcountry walking around, not on a trail, is always try to strive to keep the high ground. You don't want to give up elevation because it's so easy to give it up. So that's just something to be mindful of. But yeah, that's one example. And then on the paper map, we knew the day before we were going to be heading over Glen Pass, which is right here. And we knew that the trail, went down on the west side of the upper Ray Lake, and then kind of around the middle. Yeah, so we knew it was going around. So we were looking for that, you know, and we'd already planned. So in the Sierra, we always, you know, took a look at the paper map the night before in camp, and then we also looked at Far Out. Far Out's very useful. You know, you get comments, you know, Ray Lakes. You can see the comments up here. There's always some comments in here, and you could see, you get at least some detail. So that was helpful. You can look at, you know, look at water sources. So you have a stream here, for example, Crossy, reliable stream, right? So there's tons of videos on the internet how to use Far Out. It tells you what the next water is and going northbound or southbound in campsites, and then there's plenty of comments. All right, so the next question is so how do you plan your day or plan a route? So really, you know, from a macro perspective, going from town to town, so this is Oregon, just to orient everyone, you know, so for example, let's say I'm going from Timberline Lodge to Cascade Locks. So you can see here, Timberline Lodge is around just under mile 2100, and then Cascade Locks is just shy of 2150. So it's about a 50-mile leg. So I know it's going to be about 50 miles. I know I hike about 25 miles a day. So I'm going to plan for 2 days to Cascade Locks. This is during my through hike. So now let's go to the map. And then here's Oregon. So we'll go ahead and take a look and at Timberline Lodge. So Timberline Lodge is right there, and so you can see Timberline Lodge. So what we're going to do is we're just going to do a plan and just walk you through how I did this, just to get a rough idea. This was not exacting science here. Alright, so I know I'm going to start at Timberline Lodge, so here I'm going to go create a route, and then I'm going to start here, drop a pin, new route, and then I'm just going to drop pins along the way just to get an idea. Alright, so that's 5.9 miles. Okay, fine, cool. I'm going to pick up the pin and just keep moving it to see how far I need to go to get to about 25 miles. See what that looks like. So that's 17.9, 21.7. Okay, cool. Hey, look, there's a campsite right up there. Let's see what that looks like. And that's 24.6, but here's something interesting is that campsite probably doesn't have water. So let's just take a look at this real quick. So I'm going to, oh, there's a pipe spring here. And this pipe spring is just below the trail. The pipe may be missing. All right, so it says there's good flow. Okay, cool. So I know that there's a water source there. So, you know, I could either go there or I could go back before the 24-mile point. Oh, there's a spring and tent site. Okay. Again, depending on season, there may be differences in water. So I may get water, you know, 3 miles before camp and just dry camp for the night. So let's just say for fun we do that. So we get water here, and then we're just going to go camp there. So this is again an example. So 24.6 miles, and you can save it, you know, day 1. We'll just call that. Okay. So that's day 1. So we made it from Timberline, about 25 miles to campsite, get water there. All right, day 2. So let's create a route. So we'll start the campsite, drop a pin, and then we'll just rinse and repeat. We know there's a fire closure, at least when I went through, and we don't want to take the PCT here. There's an alternate goes through Eagle Falls, or the Eagle Creek Trail, which goes by the historic Tunnel Falls. So we're going to go this way. So far out, as long as the trail's in here, we'll figure that out. So just drop a pin here and look, it creates the route going through there. So that's 15.3 miles, and then we're going to get the Cascade Locks and stop there. So I'll just sit there, go like here, go right to there, boom. 25.6 miles. Oh, it just, it routed it the other way. So let's just go back to here, and then let's put a pin in there. There, now it keeps the route this way. Sometimes it tries to outsmart you. So instead of 25 miles, it ends up being like a 21-mile hike. So there you go. And, you know, now you just planned your route in 2 days from Timberline Lodge on the south end of Mount Hood all the way to Cascade Locks, Oregon. So that's just an example. And then along the way, you know, again, you have things to look at. So when I'm actually playing the route, I do actually go into more detail and cover the different things I'm looking at along the way. So check for water, and usually do that the night before leaving camp. So hopefully that answers the question on, you know, how to plan, address water, and you know, use the Far Out app. Okay, so other details. So going back to the second day route, heading from this campsite to Cascade Locks. So one thing that I didn't cover in the previous segment was, well, what does that look like elevation wise? So, oh wow, there's a big drop. So we're starting from camp and we're working our way north, and it drops down. So we're just at about 4,245 feet, and we're going to end the day down near sea level. Okay, cool. All right, so there's going to be a drop. Okay, great. You know, I always check the elevation profile just to get an idea. It's not something you live or die off of. Just gives you an idea in terms of pace and help visualize what your day's going to be like. Okay, so other things to consider. So as you go through here, let's say that we were not going to stop at Cascade Locks and we were just going to stop short and camp somewhere. You know, so always check the tent sites. So there's a tent site right here, and you know, there's a space nearby for about 3 tents. Great spot near the waterfall, blah blah blah. Okay, ignore the crybabies. Okay, great. So just look at the comments, just get an idea of what the campsite is like. Also, if you wanted to camp, you know, near water, you know, Bridge Creek, you're probably not going to get a good, place to camp. Typically, I aim to stay at established campsites. However, sometimes they're always packed, or sometimes they're packed, sometimes always, doesn't make sense. They're packed sometimes, so you're not able to get in there, so you need to be ready to find somewhere. Just recognize that going back to the elevation profile, you know, you're dropping down, and if you take a look at the map, you're in a canyon. I mean, just look at the topography here. You're literally following a creek. So the odds of getting a campsite in a gorge are probably not good. It's probably 50-50 at best. So always aim for established campsites in this case as your default, and be ready to pitch if you wanted to stop short, and be mindful. And the other thing too is you don't necessarily, there is a separation between the trail and the creek, and I don't have a contour map up, but knowing that the elevation drop is pretty significant, I would not be surprised if it's a steep drop down. In reality, it is a steep drop down. If you've ever hiked that trail, it's actually not pleasant. So, but those are things to look at, especially if you're unfamiliar with the terrain and the area. Is, you know, when I plan routes, it's not just pinpoint to pinpoint how far, but I also take a look at, you know, where are my alternate campsites if I needed to stealth camp. And for those of you who don't know what that means, stealth camping is camping not an established campsite away from, you know, the trail. And so, yeah, you know, I may want to stealth camp. What are my options? What are my bailouts? All right, so that's something to take a look at. In this canyon, you're not going to have much bailouts. That is the trail. Okay, so I mentioned earlier in the video, another app I used mainly in Washington was Gaia GPS. So Gaia GPS is nice because with a subscription, I get the same National Geographic maps, and I can create routes, which, again, the point of this video is not to teach you how to use Gaia GPS. I just want to show you that this tool exists. So pretty handy, as you can see, National Geographic quality maps, and they're really good. But they're not as interactive as Far Out, which is right here. So just recognize that there's, you know, there's different apps out there. I like to keep multiple apps just in case, just to get more granularity, especially in areas where I'm going to go off the PCT. Okay, so there you have it. Simple navigation, how I used it on the PCT. If you have any more questions, please ask in the comments section, and thanks for watching.